You slept for a full 8 hours last night. A complete 8. Yet you woke up feeling exhausted. Not just sleepy, but truly drained. It is the kind of fatigue that ignores your sleep duration. The kind that settles deep behind your eyes before you even step out of bed. You have tried melatonin and magnesium. You have tried earlier bedtimes, cutting out afternoon caffeine, and even investing in a $2,000 mattress. And yet, you still wake up as if your body is running a relentless program it cannot terminate. My name is Frank, and if you were born between 1965 and 1972, I believe I understand your struggle. That heavy exhaustion you carry didn't appear last week or last year. It has been accumulating since the moment you became the person everyone else relies on.
Somewhere along the line, the moments of rest simply vanished. However, you do not look exhausted. That is the paradox. You appear to have everything under control. You show up, pay the bills, respond to emails, attend appointments, and pick up prescriptions. You remember birthdays and fix things that break at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday when all you wanted was to rest. No one in your home, your office, or your family notices how thin your margin for error has become. You haven't complained. Perhaps you don't even have the vocabulary for it yet. So you keep moving, because that is what life demands. The eldest members of Gen X, born in the late 60s and early 70s, are facing every life drain simultaneously.
When you list these pressures, it ceases to be a mystery and becomes a math problem that no one was meant to solve alone. Start with employment. A 2024 report from Mental Health Research Canada revealed that Gen X workers now report the highest burnout levels of any generation. 42% stated they feel chronically overwhelmed at work. Not just occasionally stressed, but chronically overwhelmed. If you were born between 1965 and 1972, you are currently in your early 50s to early 60s. This means you are no longer the rising talent or the fresh perspective in the room. You are the person everyone assumes is 5 years away from retirement. A 2024 study by Resume Now found that nearly half of workers over 40 earn less than younger colleagues, and 1 in 5 say their workplace regularly overlooks them for challenging tasks in favor of younger staff.
Consequently, you are still doing the work, likely more than those being groomed to replace you, but the recognition vanished long ago. No one asks about your future because they assume you are winding down. Meanwhile, you hold everything together while people half your age receive the development budgets and the praise. That specific drain doesn't show up on a blood test. It exists in the gap between your job title and the actual experience of performing that job every day. You are simultaneously essential and invisible, and both states consume immense energy. Now, add the second shift, because when you leave your job, you don't actually stop working. You simply switch to a different, unpaid role. A 2024 CareWell study found that 71% of middle-aged Americans are actively caregiving for both their children and their parents. These dual caregivers spend an average of 37 hours per week on caregiving duties outside of their professional employment. That is essentially a second full-time job. You work 40-plus hours, then come home to work another 37.
The math is relentless. Your parents are likely in their late 70s or 80s. Perhaps they are experiencing memory loss, need help with transportation, or have already moved in with you. Simultaneously, you may have a child at home, a grown child who has moved back, or a college student who requires constant financial support. A late 2025 Finance of America survey quantified this. 86% of sandwich generation caregivers reported emotional exhaustion, while 80% reported physical exhaustion. These figures rose from 79% and 71% just 3 years prior. The pressure is accelerating. One detail in that survey is particularly striking. 26% of their parents noted they hadn't planned on living this long. Your parents are essentially telling you that no one budgeted for this chapter. Not them, not you and not the country. Everyone is improvising, and you were the one holding the clipboard while they navigated. You have your job pulling from one side and your family pulling from the other.
And then there is the 3 a.m. mental math, the moment you stare at the ceiling running numbers. For those born between 1965 and 1972, retirement has shifted from a concept to a countdown. And for many, that countdown does not align with their bank balance. The Schroders 2025 U.S. Retirement Survey found that Gen Xers expect to need roughly $1.1 million for a comfortable retirement, yet they expect to actually have only about $712,000. That is a gap of approximately $45,000, the largest savings gap of any surveyed generation. Only 16% feel they have saved enough. This means 5 out of 6 people your age are looking at the same spreadsheet and reaching the same silent conclusion. Financial stress doesn't stay on the spreadsheet. It follows you to your car, sits in your chest during traffic, and surfaces when your child asks about graduate school.
It appears when a friend talks about their lake house, and you nod as if you are on the same path. A 2024 New York Life Wealth Watch survey found that Gen Xers saved just under $7,500 that year, while millennials saved over $12,000. Furthermore, 43% of Gen Xers carried credit card debt, averaging more than $10,000. You were supposed to be at your peak, the era where decades of hard work finally paid off. Instead, you were doing math on napkins, wondering if you can retire at 65, or if the real number is closer to 70. Now, layer all of that onto your physical reality. A 2024 Arizona State University study of 200,000 Americans found that people entering midlife today sleep worse than any previous generation. About 40% of midlife adults are sleep deprived. The data shows that those born in the 50s and 60s, including the oldest Gen Xers, experience more insomnia and shorter sleep than any prior cohort at the same age.
You aren't imagining it. You truly are more tired than your parents were at your age. Part of this is biological, as deep sleep stages naturally decline with age. But the larger factor is structural. Your brain won't shut off because there is no place to store the mental list. The appointments, the bills, the parent who called twice, the child who hasn't called in weeks, or the work project you had to salvage. All of this follows you to your pillow. By the time your alarm rings, your brain has been running background processes all night. You got the hours, but you didn't get the rest. Two very different things. I recently wrote a short book titled Psychology of Gen X. It explores how your current actions are rooted in the environments and people that formed your habits. If that interests you, links are in the description. So, why does this specific segment of Gen X seem to be running on fumes more than anyone else? It stems from a design flaw in how this life stage was intended to function.
You were the first generation to build careers on 401ks rather than pensions. No one guaranteed you a finish line. You simply had to hope your discipline and luck would fund your own exit. Simultaneously, you hit your peak earning years just as your parents aged, and your children became expensive. You managed all of this while the costs of housing, health care, and education outpaced your income year after year. Any one of these factors would be draining, but you were facing them all at once, stacked without a break. Beneath the logistics, a psychological phenomenon is occurring that many are only now beginning to name. Therapists working with Gen X men and women in their 50s are seeing a pattern. It doesn't look like clinical depression or a cinematic midlife crisis. No one's buying a convertible to escape to Cabo. It is quieter. It is the slow realization that you have been on autopilot for decades. You built the career.
You raised the kids, and you paid the mortgage. You did everything expected of you. Now, sitting in your car before heading inside, you face a question you have avoided for 10 years. Is this the life I chose, or is this just the life I maintained?
Clinicians call it existential fatigue, a slow fade, the weariness of performing competence for so long that wanting something for yourself feels alien. The difficulty is that you cannot pause. The people dependent on you haven't received notice that you're running on empty. Your parent needs their appointment, your child needs tuition, and your boss needs that report. In this entire arrangement, you're the only person who isn't allowed to have needs. You have done this for so long that it becomes automatic rather than a choice. You don't even notice it happening anymore. That is what occurs when a system provides no space for you to rest. You will eventually stop expecting a chair. If you ask people your age how they are, they would say fine. Perhaps tired, but fine.
And they would mean it, because you were conditioned to absorb, adjust, and keep things moving without making a scene. That is a genuine skill. It kept you employed, kept your family intact, and kept the operation running far longer than most would have endured. However, it is also why you feel this way. The same wiring that keeps you going is what prevents you from stopping to check the fuel gauge. So, how do you handle this? Perhaps by simply naming it. Not by fixing or optimizing it, nor by buying supplements, but by saying it aloud to someone, or even just to yourself in the car. I am tired, and it has been a long time coming. Psychology of Gen X emerged from this channel, and the realization that there is a larger story connecting these themes. If you want to explore it, the link is below. The oldest Gen Xers are approaching 60, or are already there. Conversations about exhaustion often sound like advice.
Sleep more, exercise, or meditate. While helpful, that doesn't address the root cause. You have spent your adult life as the anchor for others. Anchors function by staying at the bottom, but even an anchor needs to be pulled up occasionally. So, take 5 minutes in your car with the radio on. No one is asking anything of you. You have been paying for those 5 minutes your entire life. You might as well collect. That is all I have for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.